Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our introductory session of our Black History Month series. My name is Dr. Daniel Kelvin Bullock, and I'm the Executive Director for Equity Affairs for Durham Public Schools. And I am joined here today by Ms. Chanel Sidbury, our Executive Director for Curriculum and Instruction, Mrs. Kelly Stevens, who is our History and Civic Engagement Specialist, and also Dr. Michelle Hicks, an educator here in Durham Public Schools. I'm very excited to be here with you all, as today just is our introduction to really get things started with a number of things that will be going on across Durham Public Schools this month for Black History Month. If we could go to the next slide.
Thank you, Dr. Bullock. We're so excited to have you with us this evening. In Durham Public Schools, we celebrate. We celebrate all cultural groups. We want to make sure our students and families feel represented in not only the educational experiences that they get, but also the educational programming and resources that we afford them as their stakeholders. As we embark upon the 2021 school year, it marks a year different, a year that is different from any other that we've experienced. Such major change, such transition to online learning. And we know that these celebrations oftentimes take light in the school buildings through guest speakers and through having multiple opportunities to engage in learning. And we want to make sure that we still honor and still celebrate all cultures, including our Black History Month. This month, we have a spotlight on integrity, which is our character education trait of the month. We are also celebrating National School Counseling Week. And we also want to draw your attention to our website, which is www.celebrate.dpsnc.net. And on this site, you're going to find resources available in English and in Spanish, a monthly calendar of events, monthly flyers, links to educational resources, e-library collection, and you will also find many fun activities such as social media promotions, Zoom backgrounds, and Bitmoji resources. Each month, we want to highlight the great things that our families and students bring forward in terms of their diversity, as well as shine a light on any academic celebrations, cultural celebrations, and highlight our character traits of the month. It is very important as a school organization that we honor our families, that we honor our diversity, and that we celebrate all. And so this month, we're celebrating Black history. We're excited to share these resources with you and all of the events that are going to be forthcoming. Next slide.
So on this slide, we're sharing some information about the history of Black History Month. And many of you may know that it originated out of Negro History Week, which was the brainchild of Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson was a noted historian and also wrote such popular works as The Miseducation of the Negro. And this celebration has taken place every year since the 70s, and other countries around the world, including Canada and the United Kingdom, also devote a month to celebrating Black history. Thank you. Now, in addition to Black History Month, we are also celebrating Black Lives Matter at School this month. So the official Black Lives Matter at School week is actually this week. So it runs from February 1st through 5th. And our Board of Education has designated this entire month as a month of action. And in thinking about this month of action, we want to think about how are we affirming and celebrating our Black children during this time. We are highly motivated or thoughtful about the fact that historically there have been a number of voices that have been silenced when it comes to their education and silenced in schools. So when we talk about Black Lives Matter in Durham, we want to be very intentional about affirming and celebrating the brilliant Black children that we serve here in Durham. Of course, we have brilliant children of all colors, but here in this month of February, we specifically want to lift up Black students during Black History Month and Black Lives Matter at School Month. We've also created an instructional guide. My office, the Office of Equity Affairs, has created and curated this guide for Durham Public Schools teachers. And we focused our lessons specifically on the Black Lives Matter principles of restorative justice, globalism, collective value, and Black families, just to name a few. There are a few others named in that guide also. But feel free, it is available. You can find it on the Durham Public Schools website if you click on the Black History Month banner. And you can take a look at that guide, and it can give you some ideas about how we engage our students in these conversations during Black Lives Matter at School Week, and with our board naming it as Black Lives Matter at School Month of Action. It gives you some ideas for that. All right, next slide. Also important to note with this is that in Durham Public Schools for the last few years, and this originated out of our curriculum and instruction department, we have our hashtag DPS Beyond 28. And this effort is really centered on making sure that Black history doesn't just become a conversation for the month of February, but it continues beyond the month of February. So what we seek to do with this effort is to provide culturally diverse perspectives, and to make sure we're being inclusive of different groups of students, particularly our Black students, not just for the month of February, but beyond. We all know that Black history cannot be contained in just 28 days. There's no way that should not even be a goal of us to just talk about Black history for 28 days of the year. What we know is that we really need time throughout the year to weave together the stories and experiences, not only of our African-American students and families here, but our Latino families, our white families, Asian American families, multiracial, etc. We need to weave together these stories throughout the year, but really be intentional about naming and celebrating and affirming those stories that historically have not been present in curriculum. So that's a part of our effort there. So, as we're thinking about, this conversation spanning beyond February, I just want to speak for a moment and kind of help us transition. We actually can take a step away from the presentation for a second. I want us to just think about how some of our different efforts are going to weave together, starting with our event today. So we decided to start our conversation today with an effort that began with Kids Voting Durham. So in January, on Martin Luther King Day, Kids Voting started an effort to compile the dreams of young people here in Durham. And so the effort was centered, of course, in Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. And it was all about making sure that we're, first of all, getting our student voice, centering their voices, centering their dreams, and thinking about how do we build upon the dreams of our young people? How do we make sure we're hearing those dreams? So in a moment, we will be hearing from Ms. Carolyn Kruger, who is the director for Kids Voting Durham. And she's going to talk to us about that project. Actually, her and Ms. Stevens are going to engage in a dialogue on the project to compile these dreams of young people in Durham. But as we think about that, we do think it's important to acknowledge that even with Dr. King's dream, it did become nuanced at times. And as we step into these dreams and step into these positive ideas about where we want to go, we know that these dreams have often been coupled with some troubling times too. And even Dr. King alluded to the fact that shortly after he gave that "I Have a Dream" speech, it quickly turned into a nightmare because we as a country were dealing with the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, that claimed the lives of 4 little girls. And later, he would see that that dream that he had just had so many challenges with it because there was a reluctance to acknowledge the ways in which people of color, particularly Black people, were continuing to deal with issues of racism and bigotry that were limiting their options and opportunities in society. So it is with those things in mind that We come here today to think about how do we do something better? How do we build something better for our young people today? How do we listen to their dreams? How do we center their voices? And there are some wonderful experiences or wonderful things going on in Durham right now. If I would have been able to reach out to Hillside's One Voice Acting Troupe earlier, they have put together a wonderful poetic piece called Peace, and where they're talking about their dreams of peace for our society. So as we transition to our video, we just want to acknowledge that our young people are still dreaming, and we need to listen to those dreams. We need to acknowledge those dreams, and we need to help them build those dreams so that they can build the society that we've been talking about and dreaming about for years. So thank you for giving me that time just to say a little bit about this project. Again, this is more of an introductory conversation, and we will be diving deeper into Black history throughout the month of February, and it's beyond 28. So we'll be going into March too. So Ms. Stevens, if we can transition to your conversation with Ms. Kruger, that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Bullock. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. Oh, it didn't share with sound. In all of our countries. So Carolyn, would you like to go ahead and talk about your Dreams for Durham campaign?
Sure. We recognize that Martin Luther King had not just one dream, he had a number of dreams for our country, for our people, but that he recognized that these dreams and these ideas for a better community, a better society, were the foundation that his engaged citizenship and that he inspired, the engaged citizenship that he inspired in others came out of. The first step to being an engaged citizen and making change is having an idea, a dream, a thought in your head for what will make your community better, for where you want to go. And he had some absolutely beautiful dreams that we think not only inspired people in the past, but can inspire people today to have their own dreams for Durham and act on them, and for Durham, for our state, and for our nation, for our world. So for Martin Luther King Day this year and every year, we encourage people to create their own dreams for Durham. And we particularly encourage young people to dream and to share their dreams with us. Because not only does that dream help motivate you to decide what kind of actions you're going to take as a citizen with other people, but it inspires the rest of us to know what young people are dreaming for our community. As Martin Luther King said, this is an important part, is not just having our dreams, but sharing them with other people, standing up for them and fighting for them. So you can go to the Kids Voting website, kidsvotingdurham.org /MLK-2021, or you can find it just by going to the front page of kidsvotingdurham.org. And you can download some coloring sheets or just create your own and draw or write your dream for Durham. What would make your community better, your school, your neighborhood? What do you see as, like Martin Luther King had his dreams, what is your dream? You can write it, you can draw it, but we would love to see what your dream is for Durham and then share it.
Our apologies, everyone. It seems we're running into a bit of a technical difficulty with some of the sound. So, Ms. Stevens, I guess you can give it another shot to see if the sound is going to work. And if not, we can transition to the next portion of our presentation.
I will try to turn my video off and reserve the bandwidth, and we'll try again.
Mrs. Stevens, you can just go ahead and stop sharing that video. Let's go ahead and just talk through those resources from Dreams for Durham. Kelly, you need to unmute.
I turned on my video and I turned off the mute. Technology challenges today, I'm sorry. If you visit the Kids Voting Durham website, at the top of their website, they have got their Dreams for Durham campaign listed. You can download some of their worksheets. They've got 3 different worksheets, or you can create one yourself. They ask that you then take a picture of that, post it on social media, tag Kids Voting Durham, or use the hashtag dreams4Durham. You can also email it to their special email address so that it'll go automatically to their gallery. We would love to hear what all of your dreams are for Durham and what initiatives you'd like to see moving forward. I'd also love to give Kids Voting Durham a shout out. They are a finalist in the Civies Awards for the work that they've done with Durham Public Schools with our recent election. We will find out the final vote in March, but that is a huge accomplishment for Kids Voting Durham to be nominated for that and to make it to the finalist stage. Because in this year, unlike any other years, they had a record number of nominations for all the efforts different organizations are doing across the country. So we especially want to lift up Kids Voting Durham for that nomination and for that stature of making a finalist. All right, and then I'm going to share my screen once again. Let's hope that this works this time. Excellent. Okay, and coming up, as Dr. Bullock mentioned, we have some activities planned in February, and we have some activities that rolled over into March. So just as a little bit of a sneak peek, these are some different people across Durham that we are going to be speaking over the course of February and March. We have Jasmine Stewart, who's a DPS alumni. She's now an educator and a children's book author. We also have her illustrator, DeMarcus Boone, who is also a DPS alumni and a Durham artist. You might even see some of his murals in downtown Durham. We have our own We Are Kings program operator, Jermaine Porter, works with Dr. Bullock directly. We have Leonardo and Zwelly Williams. They're both Durham entrepreneurs. We have Jordan Snyder from Everfi. And coming up next week, we have our own Dr. Bullock and his wife, Dr. Rhonda Bullock. Dr. Rhonda Taylor Bullock is the lead curator for the We Are. This is working to extend anti-racist education. Both are former DPS teachers. They worked at Hillside High School. And Dr. Bullock, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're going to talk about next week, or do you want to leave them wanting more and join us next week?
Oh, well, hopefully I can say a few words and then they'll still want to come back. So that's the goal. But yeah, really looking forward to the conversation next week. And also, I do want to go back and give a shout out to that accomplishment that you mentioned from Ms. Kruger with Kids Voting Durham. I've worked with them for a number of years, and I'm glad to see them being acknowledged and celebrated for the great work that they're doing. But really looking forward to this conversation with my better half next week. And I feel like I've said a number of things this week, so I'll probably yield the floor to her to let her share some thoughts specifically on Black history. And also, we're going to be talking about our dreams for Black history in Durham and what we would envision that to look like, not only for us and for students across the system, but also for us specifically as parents. The children pictured here, our children, they are students in Durham Public Schools also. So when we talk about our dreams for Black history in Durham, we have very concrete examples of what we're looking for and what we're hoping for as far as our children go. So that's it. Thank you, Ms. Stevens.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, as we begin to wrap up, we're very thankful that we have partnership in our Durham County, also with Durham Public Schools, as well as many other partnerships within our district that feed and support our families and our students and make sure that we have equity across our schools in these conversations, resources, and access. I also want to remind everyone that our National Education Association also denotes racial equity in education by honoring Black Lives Matter at school. And this is about the goal of Black Lives Matter at school is to spark an ongoing movement of critical reflection and honest conversation and impactful actions in our school communities and for people of all ages to engage in the issues of racial justice. So we want to make sure we uplift the stories of all students. We want to make sure that we have an intentionality in honoring the history of all of our students. And this begins with our DPS Celebrates resources. And you're going to continue to hear about many other opportunities highlighting cultural diversity and the diversity of our families and students, which are the fabric of Durham Public Schools. We love all of our families. We love all of our students. We want to make sure that all history is our history and that everyone feels recognized and honored and respected in both the educational programming, resources, and discussions that we bring forth in our schools. If we do not, if not us, then who? So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Bullock and Ms. Stevens. Is there anything else we want to say as we celebrate our kickoff to DPS Beyond 28?
Let's see, Dr. Hicks, Ms. Stevens, any other thoughts?
We just want to thank everyone for joining us. We want to thank all of our families, all of our students, all of our educators in Durham. We know this year has been unlike anything else, but positives have come out of this pandemic. You know, we have come closer together as community. We have come closer together working with our students and preparing them for lifelong learning. So thank you everyone for joining us today.
I'd like to say also thank you, and I'm excited that these series of events will focus on Black History Month and then move beyond that. So not just in February, like we talked about, but throughout March and throughout the school year. I'm very excited about this initiative.
And I will be remiss if I did not honor Melissa Perez, our World Languages and Cultural Diversity Specialist, who is unable to join us today, but she is behind the scenes also supporting these resources and cultivating these opportunities for our students. Thank you so much for joining us. We are DPS and we are DPS Beyond 28. Thank you.